Well, okay, so here we are live from the home here. I am in the process of getting everything set up right now, and I want to go ahead and say a shout out to Mitch and let you know that you will be disappointed. This is not going to be nearly as exciting as the countdown was. The countdown is like all of my best work, and this live stuff is mostly seems to be me troubleshooting stuff, and I've already got an issue that I'm hoping to get worked out here, but we'll see how things go. I'm going to switch over to the desktop and see. I've got this is SharpCap that I've got open right now, and SharpCap is the capture software that I'm using with the telescope, with the camera, and it appears as though things have locked up on me, and I don't understand why. I had a great connection all the way right up until just a second ago, and then things kind of went away. In fact, it seemed to lock up when the countdown was counting down from 10, so as luck would have it. But never fear. I think what I'm going to just do is I'm going to back out of this, and I'm going to close TeamViewer. Whoa! Oh, the background music is still up loud here. Let me get that straightened out. Okay. Like I said, I'm new to this, so we're going to go to, let's see if I can get the webcam up, and I will show you guys the webcam outside. Hopefully the webcam is showing now. Yeah, so there's the webcam. Yeah, I'll give you your refund Wednesday when we see each other. You get exactly what you paid for the admission fee here. I might just have too much stuff open, although my computer should more than easily be able to handle all this. More than likely what it is the computer that's actually on the telescope out there is just taxed too much. So that is a live shot of the scope outside, and we're going to TeamViewer into it here. Let's see. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch back over to the desktop so you guys can see everything that I'm doing here. So it's asking me if I want to download or disconnect from the mount, and I'm going to say yes, just so I can go through this whole process from start to finish here. I'm going to close SharpCap. I'm going to close my guiding software because we definitely don't need it right now. Get this going full screen. Minimize that. And let's see. I'm still connected. This is the Pegasus Astro. So this is the sort of the control box that's on the mount. And it will besides let me know what it's connected to, and I can reset my USB points here automatically. It also tells me the current temperature and the humidity outside, so it's 93.2 degrees Fahrenheit and a 5% humidity outside, so nice and dry out there tonight. I'm going to reconnect to the camera here. So I'm actually using a desktop mic that I have. A Blue Snowball is what it's called if you want to Google it. It's a large cardioid mic that's on a little mic stand sitting right here in front of me, since that way I don't have to worry about having a wired mic or having any kind of wireless mess to worry about. I've got enough issues just staying connected wirelessly to the computer outside. So let's see, we're going to connect to the camera again, and then I'm going to launch CPWI, so this software here is called SharpCap, and this program controls the camera and the capturing part of it. And CPWI, which I'm going to launch now. I'm going to minimize that. It should be launched. It's probably going to tell me that another copy is already running. Okay, so we'll close that, and we'll let CPWI. So CPWI is the Celestron plane wave. I don't know what I stands for, interface, I guess. So this allows me to connect to the mount. I'll connect to the mount, and I'm going to tell it I want to do a manual alignment. And let's switch over to the outside camera. So I'm going to tell it to go to the home position. So now that you can see the telescope is moving to the home position. So the counterweights that you see on the left side there that are swinging down, they will be pointing straight down over that leg, the tripod leg that's closest to us. Oh, there is something going wrong out there. My mount is going the wrong way. This is not good, guys. This is not good at all. My mount is completely all messed up here. So I am going to have to run out there and do a quick little release and reset the camera. So what I will do while I go out there is turn the camera mic on outside so I can talk to you from out there. Stand by 1 second. All right, so we're back inside now, and I always have to remember to mute that microphone outside, otherwise we get a lot of noise here. So I am going to disconnect from the mount once again and relaunch it and see if things get any better this time. Alright, so we'll go back to, let's see, our camera is still connected. So I'm going to launch CPWI, Celestron Plane Wave Interface, I believe is what it stands for. Couldn't hear me from the webcam. Okay, yeah, well, it's a very narrow or long focal length on that webcam. I was really surprised. And so it's pretty far away. It's like 15, 18 feet away from the telescope. So I guess I have to remember when I'm going out there to speak up much louder. So we're going to give this a shot again. Thanks for the feedback, though, Mitch. Appreciate it. And let's see. We're going to connect to the mount, and it is already at my home position, so I'm going to tell it I want to do a manual align. The mount is ready to go to the home switch, so if we switch to the outside camera now, you should see that it's now it's in the correct home position. And we'll go back to the desktop software here. And I have a few targets that I can set up here to align to. I'm going to go to Deneb. It's pretty high overhead. I'm going to tell it to go there, and if we switch to the outdoor camera, you can see the scope moving. And once it gets there, we will go back to the camera here. And I'm going to do probably 1 second exposures here. That should be plenty to show us Deneb once it's in the shot here. Let's see. So that is Deneb that you're seeing in the bottom right hand corner. So you can see the alignment is not great. But what I will do is let me get the scope reconnected here and get the focuser connected, which we won't really need tonight for what little bit of stuff that I'm doing, and the filter wheel is now connected. Alright, So we've got that, and oh, you know what? Question I had. So I've got the music turned down, I think, playing in the background now. So Mitch, let me know, how is the music too loud? Can you even hear the music playing at all? It's the same music from the countdown. That's just a video that's looping in the background. So just give me a heads up on how that sounds. So I am going to move the mount and get this bright star centered here. Let's see if this is the right up button. Nope, I always pick one of these wrong. So let's go back up this way. Again, this is not like mission critical, so as long as I'm fairly close, like maybe one more little bump there, and then we'll go one little bump to the left. You can't hear the music. Okay, well that's good to know. All right, so I can turn the music up a little bit. Let me do that. All right, I have turned the music up just a touch. I don't want it loud. I just want it to be like, you know, annoying stuff in the background. All right, looking back at our software. So this is our first star, Deneb, that I'm doing the alignment on. And I would say that's pretty good, pretty close to center. So I can go back and I can tell it that it is centered now. All right, and then I'll use nearby Satyr, because we're going to stay in this region of the sky tonight anyway, and we will we'll go to it. So now we should see Satyr come into view here in a moment, and it should be fairly close to center of the crosshairs. That's good. Let's see, just go down one little bump here maybe. Oh, too far. Go back up half a bump maybe, and one bump to the left, and that should put us close enough to the crosshairs. Yeah, that's good for what we're doing here. So I'm going to tell it now that it's centered, and then I'm going to tell it I'm finished, and I'm going to exit the alignment procedure. And what I want to do now is I want to go find the Crescent Nebula. The Crescent Nebula is actually very close to the star that it's on right now. So I will type in its number designation, NGC 6888. We'll see it come up here in the list, and we'll select it. And I will go to it, tell it to go to that target, and switch back to the camera software. All right, so now we don't really see anything in the center because this nebula is really, really faint. So I see the chat is lagging. I don't think there's anything I have control over with the chat. That's YouTube, I believe. All right, so if I do a longer exposure, so like right now we're doing, it says 1,000 milliseconds, so that's 1 second. If I do like a 5-second exposure, let me click on all of this, trying to select this, and do 5 seconds instead. So now we'll see, yeah, I want to change, thank you for the heads up, Sharp Cap, that I want to change that from mono 8 to mono 16. I also want to change the file format to a FITS format. And that should give us, now we can just start to make out the Crescent Nebula here in the center. I believe this little reflection, or this little looks like nebulosity that's on the left hand side here, I believe that's actually a reflection from Satyr, that really bright star that we were just on. If I moved in this direction up towards the top left, I think we would see Satyr come into view. It's just off the screen there. So let's make this full screen, and I want to try a couple little things out here. So I've got this set up. Oh, look at that. We can see the camera and I can see the chat at the same time, so that's kind of cool. But this is an object that really shows up good in hydrogen alpha formats. Let me go down here and switch filters. I should show you this. So on the right hand column is where all the camera control stuff is, and if I scroll down here, you can see right where the cursor is rotating right now. This is the control for the filter wheel. So we're on the luminance filter right now, which is basically a clear filter. And I'm going to switch over to the hydrogen alpha filter, and you'll notice this 5-second exposure goes really, really dark here. It's updating every 5 seconds. There's the full 5 seconds. Let's see if I do a stretch here, if I get anything out of it. So this is something that's going to require a much longer exposure. In order to do a longer exposure, I'm going to have to launch PhD2, yet another control software that I will connect the guide camera and the mount to. And we will start guiding here. And what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to calibrate my guider because I disconnected everything today. So I'm going to tell it to auto select a star. It's chosen that one. And I am going to do shift guide. And what that will do is that will start calibrating. If you look in the bottom left-hand corner, it says West Step 1, West Step 2, West Step 3. And if we go back and we look at our image, you're going to see the few stars that are visible are moving. So what it's doing is the guide camera is tracking this star that's in the yellow crosshair here. So the yellow crosshair was the star's original position, and what it's doing is it's telling the mount to move a certain number of steps west, and then it'll move a certain number of steps east, and then it'll do the same thing north and south. And what that does is that calibrates the software so that it knows when it needs to tell the mount to do a correction, whether to go left, right, east, up or down, left or right. And it automatically will guide. It will track that star and keep it centered on the crosshair and allow you to do really, really long exposures. Hopefully, that's if all the guiding is working. Yeah, and the funny thing is, it's funny you mentioned the CPU. Everything is running on that little mini computer, and it's a Stellarium. It's only got 2 cores, and it is maxed out to the max. So it is definitely way underpowered for all of the programs that I'm trying to run on it here. So yeah, you have a good point, Mitch. That could very well be why everything kind of locked up and crashed earlier. Although I didn't even have PhD guiding software open yet, so I don't know. I've noticed it's slow, but I've never had it crash before tonight. But of course, it's only my 3rd stream, so I had technical issues on the first 2 streams. So hopefully that's the only technical issue that I have tonight. And we're waiting. It's actually done with the west-east calibration, so it's working on the north-south calibration right now. It just finished north, and now it's going back doing south. You can see in the bottom left-hand corner there. And when it finishes with this calibration, it'll lock on that star, and it will actually start guiding. And you'll see a graph here that sort of looks like a Richter scale for an earthquake. And especially with my scope, it's really, really bad. Ideally, you want the graph to stay within plus or minus 1, but my graph goes all over the place, especially at the beginning. So it's actually now guiding now, and you can see it's giving me that indication in the bottom left-hand corner that it's guiding. And you're going to see a blue line and a red line start to form here. The red line is the declination, which is more or less north and south in the sky, and the blue line is the right ascension, which is more or less what did I say? Declination is north and south, so right ascension is east and west. And you can see that the solid curvy line that you see here is actually what the mount itself is doing, and the very distinct sharp straight up and down red and blue lines are the corrections that the software is doing. Yeah, I know there's a way to zoom in, Mitch. Oh yeah, to your other point, upgrade. Yeah, if I had money, I would definitely upgrade to a an i3 with multiple cores could very easily handle all this software. So you see we're guiding here, and it's going just above. It's actually going up to about 1.5 there, and it went down to about 1.5, minus 1.5. So my stars are not going to be super fantastic, but for what we're doing here tonight, this is going to allow me to do maybe, let's start out with something simple like 30-second exposures. So we'll change our exposure time to 30 seconds now, and we'll see if we can get any more detail. Handicap setting. Oh, shame you can't do a zoom with your mouse. Yeah, I know there's a way to do that, but I don't know how to do it. It's another one of those steps that I've got to try to remember how to do. So looking at the program now, you can see in the bottom right-hand corner, the countdown is counting down to 2 seconds left here, and we have a 30-second exposure that's just coming in. And if I do a little play with the histogram here, we can start to see the Crescent Nebula. So it's kind of a C-shaped nebula here. One of the things I wanted to do briefly here is I really need to go outside and physically look at if you can see just how close the camera end of the telescope is getting to the tripod leg. So I want to make sure that the camera is not going to plow into. That would be really bad. Actually, I think the mount would just stop. But you can see over here the camera's getting really close to the tripod. Actually, I'm more worried about the filter wheel getting close to it. So I'm going to run out there real quick and check and see how much time we've got. So it's not as close as I thought it was. It looks like we've got probably another 45 minutes to an hour before it runs into the mount. So 30 seconds is looking okay. If I do an auto stretch here, one of the things I wanted to fool around with tonight is a feature that this software has. Oh, let me get you guys back to the software so you can see what's going on here. So software should be up now, and I can minimize that for a second and get my OBS software as the streaming software on top so I can kind of see what's going on here. That way I make sure I'm switched to the right source. I can put the chat up. I'm going to turn the crosshairs off. We don't need the crosshairs anymore tonight. Our subject is pretty well centered, and I think I'm going to bump my exposure up to 60 seconds. So it's going to start a new exposure now, and it'll ramp up to 60 seconds. There's something that's kind of interesting. Let me go back to the desktop so you can see the full frame here. So a CMOS sensor has something called amp glow, and it's kind of visible on the right hand side of the frame here. If you look like where the cursor's at here, it's a little bit lighter colored grayish background. It kind of comes down here. So the electronics where all of the information from the CMOS sensor is fed to is on this side of the sensor. So you get a little bit of glow in really, really long exposures. There is a way around that though, so I'm not too worried. We can do the darks and the flats frames, the calibration frames will actually take care of that. All right, so we've got about 5 seconds left to go until our first 60-second exposure comes in, and we will take a peek at it and see how things look. And do a little stretch on the histogram here. So I need to make sure my cooler is on. See, this is how I could tell, is looking at this picture. It should not have been this grainy. So my cooler is off, so the sensor is actually running at 30 degrees Celsius. That's 30 degrees above ambient, I believe. So I'm going to turn the cooler on and bring and you'll see the cooler power ramp up here. And it will start slowly cooling off the sensor till it gets to -5 degrees. -5 is the coldest I can get the sensor when it's 95 degrees outside. If I was up in the mountains and it was a nice comfy, 65, 70 degrees, I can actually get the sensor cooled down to -20 degrees below ambient temperature. But that's not happening up here in the mountains. Or, here in the middle of the desert in August. Let's see. We just had another exposure come in as the cooler is ramping down. So it's going to take it a couple of minutes to cool the sensor down. It's already down to 21 degrees, so it's cooling pretty fast. So I'm going to go ahead and get my capture folder set up. So I want to tell it where to save these files. So I'm going to open up this. I'm going to go to the Astro drive and make a new folder, and today is 08/30/2020, and we are doing Crescent Nebula. So that's going to be my capture folder for today. Say yes. Everything will go in there, and we're about 10 seconds away from our next exposure coming in with the sensor cooled down to -12 or to +12 degrees. So we still got a little ways to go before I actually start capturing files. This is the boredom of, let's see. So I can already see that it's getting a little bit cleaner, but it's definitely going to be better when it gets down to -5. It's at 9 degrees right now. So one of the things, hopefully this is, my desktop computer is plenty powerful enough to run all of this stuff. So I'm going to go to my desktop, minimize that, and while we're waiting for the sensor to go down to proper temperature, I am going to I'm going to open up another video to watch, and this is a like a walk around video of my setup. Let's see, let me get this reset here back to the beginning, and let me switch over to the countdown. Alright, so here's the rig for tonight. Do a real quick walk around here and show you the setup. There's Sagan, Astro Dog. That might be his only appearance for the night. Titan, I'm sure, will be bugging us while we're live. But we'll start at the bottom here. I've got a Goal Zero Yeti 400 and an additional 35 amp hour battery. I can go like 3, probably 4 nights without having to recharge this system because it uses very little power. Mead super giant field tripod with a plate modified to allow me to mount my Celestron CGX mount to it. You'll notice one thing I'm really proud of and I really like is the fact that I only have one cable coming off of the mount. So it's the only thing I have to worry about, especially with this Mead tripod, getting it snagged on these little adjustment knobs. But so here's the rig. It's a Explore Scientific ED127 that you can see here, and I've got a little Stellarview 200mm focal length guide scope with a Starshoot, Orion Starshoot auto guider, and then I've got Pegasus Astro Ultimate Power Box V2 and a little mini computer on the top that everything kind of like goes into. I've got a little 5 gigahertz. Ask me why it's 5 gigahertz. A 5 gigahertz little Wi-Fi, USB powered Wi-Fi router here that generates a hotspot that the computer connects to, and then I'm able to connect to on the computer in the house and TeamViewer into the system. And that's pretty much it. I've kind of got things cable managed as good as I can, so that I don't think I get too many. I don't think I get much of an issue with cable snags or cable weight. Not exactly sure where this should go. Should it go off the back end of the scope here, or should I just let it dangle somewhere like that? Doesn't really doesn't really seem to add too much pull or too much weight on it unless it gets snagged. And Titan is letting himself be known to the, or Sagan is letting himself be known to the neighborhood. Bad dog. Worst dog. Oh, yes, mister. All right, let's go inside. Inside. Come on, in the house. Everybody inside. All right, so here's the rig for tonight. All right, so let's stop that video. All right, so that was the little walk around video. Thanks for the tip about getting rid of the white border. Yeah, I mean, it's just Windows Media Player, and I forgot to hit the full screen button. So, you know, things I'm learning. Let's see, I can close that video now. And, oh, now I've lost my background music, though, because it replaced Windows Media Player, I guess, there. All right, no big deal. Let me see. Why do I have a lot of desktop audio playing right now? Where is that coming from? I have closed everything, so I'm hearing my desktop audio. I don't know what that is, though. So I'm going to go ahead and just mute the desktop audio. You shouldn't be hearing anything from the desktop. So what you're seeing right now is a planetarium program called Stellarium, and one of the cool things about Stellarium is that you can do a custom landscape. So you have to create a panoramic photograph and then input it into the program with the correct parameters. But the cool thing is that it allows me to be able to see where things are in the sky. And obviously you can see right here in the center of the screen where my panoramic stitched. So it went from here around and then came back this way and stitched there. But you can also get kind of a good judgment of just how limited my field of view is here in the sky. So if I turn around, this is facing east, facing directly towards my house. The really good thing is that north is here. And if I... So the current time set up in the timeline was for earlier today, so 7:45. But if I click on this button here and bring it to the current time, we can see the sky, what the sky looks like. And my object that I'm shooting tonight is, let's see, it's right up here by Satyr, the Crescent Nebula. So you can see the object is cleared the house, obviously. But we have pretty limited field of view. The moon is up right now. The moon is visible. So what I may do is, no, I was thinking about going to the moon, but I'm going to go ahead and switch back to our image of the Crescent Nebula. I've got everything going really good. Let's check on guiding and see how the guiding is doing. Guiding is doing roughly okay. There's definitely been some spikes there, but I don't know if that's the wind or if it's just problems with the mount, but it's doing all right. So we're going to go ahead and start capturing, and we're going to capture, let's say 10 60-second exposures. We're already doing 60s, so let's get everything full screen here. And I'm going to tell it to capture... You know what? I'm going to go ahead and tell it to capture 13 60-second exposures. And what we'll do when we process this image later tonight is I will take the best 10. The software will analyze it, and it will pick out the best 10 pictures. It analyzes it for the roundness of the stars, and it analyzes it, I guess, there's a couple of different things that it looks at. If I zoom in really tight here on the Crescent Nebula, we can see a little bit of noise here. But overall not too bad looking. Only wished all of my channels responded like that. Well, yeah, you know, I mean, I don't know how many live channels you watch, Mitch, but doesn't seem like any of the other guys from my little Astro group decided to join us tonight. If they did, well, I know they didn't because it's showing 3 viewers, and I think I'm 2 of those viewers, or you're 2 of those viewers, and I'm 1 of them. So I guess it's just you and I. It's a private star party just for you, Mitch. How about that? So I'm going to zoom out to about 75% so we get a little more of the surrounding nebula. or the surrounding sky here. So the great thing about this software, if you look in the bottom right-hand corner, you can see it's it's halfway through capturing frame 1 of 13, and it gives you an ETA of 9:46 p.m. is when it will be finished. So we've got about 13 or about 12 minutes to go, I guess, which makes sense to capture 13 60-second exposures. That's 13 minutes from now. And all right, so our first captured image just appeared and just refreshed onto the screen, and those stars look fantastic. I'm liking that. Just to give you an idea, though, this is an object that you would want to do from a dark sky, not when there's a nearly full moon up, and you would want to do hours and hours worth of exposures on it to really get a lot of the fantastic detail that's available. But we'll still get a decent image out of this. Again, this is the Crescent Nebula. Crescent Nebula. I'm going to go back to the outdoor camera here just for a moment so that I can minimize this on my main screen that's being captured. I'm going to go ahead and close Stellarium, and I want to open up the countdown clock so I can get the music playing in the background again. And now I realized what the noise was that was coming through earlier. The noise was the microphone that was on the webcam that's outside. Okay. I forgot that I turned it off when I went outside to check earlier. So our desktop audio should be opened up again, and I've got the countdown clock running in the background. So that's our background music. Come back forward here. This is when it gets really boring, because I want to keep talking, but I know, Mitch, you're apparently the only one there. And I know you're not into astrophotography. You're just a buddy of mine that wanted to join in to help me out to get this streaming perfected. So I appreciate you tuning in tonight. But I don't really have much to talk about other than the technical stuff that you might not understand. I'm going to go back to Team Viewer here so that we can get this full screen and we can see our captures coming in. All right. Oh, I pressed the wrong button there, so I went to my scene view that has the webcam. So we're going to capture, we're on frame 4 of 13, and I'm going to get rid of my ugly mug because you don't need to see me. You're probably more interested in the countdown clock there in the bottom right hand corner that's showing how many frames we have left to go. And what I will do when this is done is we will do a real quick process of this image. I'm going to make sure our cooler is working. So we are at -5, and the target temperature is -5, and the sensor temperature is -5, and the cooler is running at about 67%. I could probably go to -10, but I don't have darks set for -10. I only have my dark library set for -5 and for -20, because I'm either imaging in the backyard here where I can only get to -5 or maybe -10, or I go up in the mountains and I can actually make it to -20. So I don't have a dark library from -10, so that's why we're setting at -5 here. Everything else is good to go. Just kind of wander around here and see what's going on. Actually, you know what I'm going to do is I am going to crank up the music, and I am going to mute my microphone for a moment so I can run to the bathroom real quick, and I will return in a moment. All right, I'm back. So let's see here. So we've got 8 out of 13 frames captured here. And this is the Crescent Nebula, NGC 6888. If you just Google NGC 6888, you will get much better images of this object than you're going to see here. But I'm just fooling around here, learning this whole streaming process. I want to get comfortable streaming before I maybe consider going on Twitch, because that seems to be where all the pros are now, the professional amateurs, I should say. But before I go to Twitch, I want to kind of get comfortable doing this on a regular basis. So for now, it's just YouTube, and I'm going to go through the whole process tonight. I'm going to capture some light frames on this subject, or I'm capturing light frames right now, I should say. And when I'm done capturing the light frames, I am going to capture flat frames. And I already have a dark library made, so we will go over to Astro Pixel Processor when this is done, and we will process the image. So it'll go, the broadcast will cover everything from the capture and acquisition of the images to the processing. So I forgot to send a link to my buddies earlier, in a special astrophotography group. So I was wondering why nobody joined in. Hopefully they join in now. I just sent everybody the link. I'm going to switch over to my guiding and see just how bad my guiding is. Oh boy, there is some craziness there. Let's reset that. Get rid of that ugliness. That's like Antoine's guiding with the Paramount. Holy moly. We've got about 3 more images to capture here. We'll be done with the capture at about 9:45. Once we're done with the capture, we will go to capture of the light frames. I'm going to zoom out so we can see the entire field here. I will go to, I'm kind of hoping a couple of my more knowledgeable astrophotography buddies chime in here and tell me, is this arc right here, it's a very straight arc line here, or a curved arc line here, is that a reflection from Satyr that's nearby, or possibly another bright star? I don't really want to, well, I'm capturing now, so I can't really pan over, but I'm hoping somebody has an idea of what that very distinct arc is on the upper left-hand side of the frame there. I know there's a ton of nebulosity in this area, and you can see some of the nebulosity showing through. I just did an auto stretch on this image here, and it actually looks worse than before, but my stars are looking pretty good. I mean, considering how horrible the guiding says it is, the stars are round-ish. I mean, maybe that one's a little oblong-ish, little egg shape there, but guiding is my RMS area, total RMS is 1.21 right now, so it's about the best I've been able to get out of this mount. We'll go back to our imaging here and see how things look. We've got a couple of more exposures coming in here, and then we will be ready to capture some flat frames. So while that's getting ready, I will show you guys what I use for capturing my flat frames. So this is it's an LED light panel that you can buy on Amazon. It's not going to look anything like this when you buy it on Amazon, though, because I put black tape over everything to cover the rest of the LED screen so I don't blind anybody late at night. And then I built this cone, this tube here, because it fits perfectly over the lens shade of my telescope that's outside. And it's powered. I will maybe hold up the label here so you guys can see the label, so you can see what model it is. It's an XP pen, and works really good as a flat panel to produce my flats. So we are done capturing our lights now. I'm seeing, let's go back to our desktop. So this was my last frame that was captured, and I'm ready to go outside now and capture the lights. So one thing that I forgot to do was give it a target name. So if I go to my folder where all these files are and go to today's folder, you can see they're just labeled capture, but there should be 13 of them here. Yeah, there's 13 there. All right, so I'll minimize that, and we will go to flats, and I will get set up for flats now. So what I'm going to have to do is go out to outdoor camera, and I'm going to go, well, before I do that, go back to desktop. I am going to go ahead and stop my guiding, because we are done guiding for the night, and I can disconnect these guys, and I can close PhD, and I'm going to tell the mount to go home. Well, it's home. It's in my backyard. So I'm going to tell it to go to the home position. It's going to go to the home position. If we switch over, we can see the mount is currently moving to the home position. And it's actually moving in the right direction this time, which is great news. And let's see here. So it should be just about home. Yeah, we can see that it's just about pointed near Polaris, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to disconnect. Once it's done moving, I'm going to go ahead and disconnect CPWI and close it. So now the only thing that we've got going is sharp cap, and I need to go outside and I need to install the flat panel that I just showed you so we can do our flats. And I will switch over to the outdoor camera, and let's see if I can turn the microphone out there. I'll try to explain what I'm doing, but I understand that it's very low, the microphone out there, so I'm going to turn that mic on, and I will temporarily mute the music that's playing in the background. All right, so you can see my flat panel here. And the great thing about this flat panel, I need to find the pin that's got the connector on it. I put that down. So you can see it slips right over the dew shield for the scope. And then I've got a very short custom power cord because the connectors are different at each end. And the small one plugs into the light panel. The large one plugs into the mount. And one thing I forgot to do is actually turn the power on in the Pegasus Astro. I turn the power on. Usually I do that before I come outside. So I've got to run inside and turn the power on and then come back out again. All right, so I had to come back inside for a moment here because I have to actually turn the power on to the light panel, which is here. And now I can go outside and actually I've got to physically press a button again on the light panel to turn it on, and we'll be ready to capture. So let me do that now. All right. Okay, so now I've got power to the light panel. You can probably see just a tiny little bit of light leakage at the bottom of the panel there. Everything else is taped up. All right, we are back inside here, and I'm going to switch over to the desktop so we can see that the light panel is producing very bright light here. Now what I want to do to capture my lights, and what I've been taught, is I want to reset the histogram, and then I want to adjust the exposure until the histogram spikes right in the middle, and that should give me decent stars here. So I'm just going to bring the exposure down. Now we can see the histogram. Oh, I went just a little too far. So I'm going to say probably 245 milliseconds. 245. Oh, I went to 345. Too much. Let's see what that does. 245 is not quite enough, so we'll go to 275. And we're looking at this spike here, and we want this spike to bisect the vertical dotted line, which is the 50% mark. So I'm going to say probably 280. Maybe 285. All right. I don't know exactly how precise this needs to be, but I'm going to try to get it as precise as I can. So right now it is perfectly centered here. If I were to do an auto stretch on this, you would see the reason that we have to do flats. So let me do that. So this is all of the defects that the image is actually capturing. These really, really tiny but very dark circles here are probably dust that's actually on the sensor. The slightly larger ones and slightly fainter ones may be on the sensor glass, and then the little bit bigger ones may actually be on the filter, and the big one could be something that's actually on the front element of the telescope itself. So all of that stuff is actually buried in the images. So you want to do a flat frame to get rid of that. And you want to do an average. So in order to do an average, you need to capture a handful of them. And since it's so easy, I'm going to capture 50 of them. And you can see in the bottom right-hand corner here how fast it is doing this. So it's already captured 12, 13. It'll take about 1 minute to capture 50 of these frames, and then we have to do something called a dark flat, which for somebody that's not into astrophotography, I know this calibration stuff probably doesn't make much sense to you, but it's a necessary evil to doing astrophotography. And you have a choice, I think, of doing bias frames or dark flats. And I've always done bias frames in the past, but was recently told that for my CMOS camera, I should be doing dark flats instead of bias frames. So the next thing we're going to do is we are going to change the filter to the black filter. I'm going to go into Pegasus Astro software here, and I'm going to manually turn the light panel off from inside the house here, which is great. Minimize that now. And I am going to rename this dark flat, and I'm going to capture the same number. I'm going to capture 50 of these. So these are going to be exact same length of time, 285 milliseconds, and we'll capture the same number. We'll capture 50 of them. And once we're done with this, that's when all the fun starts. We will close out SharpCap, and I will have to make one more run outside while we're live here tonight to grab the SSD drive off of the mount. And we will start processing these images. Or this image, I should say. It's going to be a single image of the Crescent Nebula, NGC 6888. All right. We're almost done. All right, so it's going to buffer the last few frames and finish writing those. Now it's done. And so what I can do now is I can turn my cooler off. Actually, I don't know if I need to bring it up to room temperature or ambient temperature or not, but hopefully somebody can chime in the comments and tell me whether I need to bother with that or if I can just turn my cooler off. But either way, while this is coming up to 0, I am going to go outside and I'm going to grab this drive that has all of our images on it so we can work on it on my desktop here in the house. So I will switch over one more time to the outdoor camera so you can see what's going on out there as I go grab the camera. I'm not going to turn the audio on because I'm going to be real quick coming in and out. And but what I will do is I will get some music going for you guys while I run outside. I shall return. Alright, so I just went outside, I grabbed the Astro drive. This is the, it's a 256 gig USB-C SSD drive, super fast. In fact, when I get it, I will show you just how fast the transfer is of all these files over to the internal SSD drive on my desktop. Let's see, what do we want to do? We want to switch back over to the desktop here, and I want to go ahead and close Sharp Cap. Yeah, we're at 0 degrees there. I can turn the cooler off. I do want to make sure I go back to the luminance filter. I have been burned before. The scope will start back up at whatever filter it was left in when I powered down. So I'm going to switch back over to the luminance filter, disconnect the focuser, and the mount should already be disconnected. And then we can power everything down here. Now, of course I get an error because I just turned everything off. Alright, so we're looking right now at the desktop of the computer that's outside. And we are done with the computer, the little mini box. I can show you just how seriously basic this computer is. It's an Intel Celeron N4000. It's a Celeron 1.1 gigahertz processor. It only has 4 gigs of RAM. It says it's a 64-bit operating system, but I've tried to run a program on this computer that required 64-bit, and it told me that it wasn't. So I guess it is, but anyway, this computer is definitely in serious need of a upgrade. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to close, or actually I'm going to power that computer down because that computer is still running on the scope out there. So I'm going to shut it down. And in the process of shutting it down, of course, we're going to lose our TeamViewer connection. Yep, shut everything down. So usually what I do is I just go up here and I manually close TeamViewer, and now we're setting at the desktop here. I want to find the Astro drive. Here's our folder, and our folder should contain the 13 files that we captured of the Crescent Nebula, and then it should contain 50 dark flats, which it does, and then it should contain 50 flats. So all of our files are here. The only thing that's missing is the actual dark library, which I have. Where do I have my dark library? Right here in another folder. So we're going to capture this folder here. We're going to copy this folder over to our current projects, and you'll see just how fast it transfers all of those files. So it's not going to take us very long to get everything loaded up here. All right. I'll minimize that, and let me see what I can shut down here before we get started. Well, I guess everything else. Oh, you know what we can shut down is I can shut down my webcam that's outside, so I can close that. Yes, we're done outside, and I'm going to go to my desktop here, and I'm going to launch Astro Pixel Processor. And we'll get into, we're just going to do a real quick processing of this file here. So it's verifying my license, and then I need to set a working directory. So the working directory needs to be where all your files are, and the majority of my files are in that folder that we just copied over that's labeled, what is it? I put the wrong date in there. I put tomorrow's date in there. So that's our folder. Minimize that, and we're going to label this NGC6888. And I want to, first step here is I want to select the light frames. So it's going to be these 13 frames that we captured here, and I'm going to tell it to apply the filter that's in the header tag, which is going to be the hydrogen alpha filter. So, and we only have one session to work with, so that's that. And you can see that it loads all 13 of my light frames down here, and everything is kind of color coded depending on the filter. It uses a red background for the hydrogen alpha filter. The next thing we want to load are our flats, and we will go over to our flats. I just like to go down the list here. So here's our first flat, and here's our last flat, and it will automatically apply the filter because we did the flats while the hydrogen alpha filter was still loaded, and we only have one session. So now if I scroll down here, you can see all of my flats down here as well. Let's see, now we're going to go to dark frames. So the dark frames, I'm going to have to jump into another folder. It's not the storage, it's the current projects folder. Dark library, where is my dark library? Right there. And okay, so I don't have my 60s with at -5. Let's see what I've got here. Do I have a 60 at -5? I think this is the 60 at -20. So what I need to do is I need to go back out to the scope and grab the SD card that has the entire dark library on it. So stand by one moment. Alright, we're back. So I'm going to load up my SD card here that has the full dark library in it. I need to minimize that and go to Astro SD, dark library, and I need to copy this folder. We did 60-second exposures, so I'm going to copy that back over to current projects and Crescent Nebula, and we'll put it in here. So this is copying from the SD card, so this is a little bit slower. The SSD drive is much faster than the SD card. It's all flash media, so I don't understand what the limitation is, but it is going through a card reader, so that's probably the limitation. Alright, we'll go back to AstroPixel Processor now, and we will load up our dark library, which is here. Select those. Darks work for all channels, and we only have one session, so those are loaded. Now we have to load the dark flats. So the dark flats are going to be in the original folder. There should be 50 of them. And again, all channels and only one session. See, now that should not have said, yeah, I guess it would be all channels. No, the dark flats should be only for the channel, because the time is going to be different for the dark flats. But since we're only working with one channel, it doesn't matter tonight. But if I was doing RGB, or if I was doing a multi-narrowband, we can see all of our files are loaded here. So our next step is to go to Calibrate. I leave everything on automatic, and I just scroll down here and I tell it to create masters and assign to the lights. So it's going to go through this process now of doing the calibration with the darks and the dark flats and the flats. So it'll calibrate everything together here. Shouldn't take too long. But in the meantime, I will ramp up the music here while it's clicking away. You can kind of see how like it'll seem like it locks up it stayed on 8% for quite a long time there, and then all of a sudden it jumped to 16% and continues on with its little processing here as it chugs away. I think the calibration step is probably the longest part of the whole thing here when it comes to creating just a monochrome image like we're doing tonight. One thing I will warn you, since I have desktop audio turned up here for our background music, is there's a very loud bell noise that rings whenever it finishes each one of these steps. We're on step 2 right now, calibration, and you'll when it gets up to 99%, just be ready for the loud bell noise to kind of jar you. I'll try to remember to turn the music and therefore desktop audio down a little bit if I can catch it in time. What do you think about the music? This is the music I bought from a guy. Full license to use for YouTube streams and monetized videos or anything, so it's kind of mellow, kind of puts you to sleep if my voice doesn't, or if this actual process doesn't put you to sleep. I like it. It's actually the same music that I used for the countdown video. If anybody tuned in to the 20-minute countdown video to going live, I honestly didn't expect it to take this long. Again, this is, I believe, probably the longest part of the process here, getting through the calibration, initial calibration here. All the other steps go pretty fast. Oh, we're zipping along now. 81%, 82%. All right. Oh, I missed it. Boy, it jumped from 90% to done. Quick like. Okay, so calibration is done. And if we scroll down to the bottom of the list here, we'll see that I've got a master flat, a master dark, and a master dark flat that are created. And I could open up any of those, but I'm not going to bother with that right now. We're going to go ahead and move along through the process here. So I always leave this at the default setting and tell it to analyze stars. This will be fast, I promise you. There's only 13 images that it has to analyze, and it goes rather quickly. And we're coming up on the end here of step 3, star analysis. All right, so now we'll go to registration. Again, I just use defaults and I just tell it to start registration. I'm sure that there's probably some settings in here that I could adjust, but I don't know what they do, so I just leave everything at the defaults. Whoa, that was fast. Did not take long to do the registration at all. So now we're going to go to normalize. Once again, I leave everything at the defaults, and I think that's all I have to do here is hit normalize lights. All right, done with that step. Now we go on to integrate, and we're going to integrate per channel. We only have one channel that we're working with. And I think that's all I have to do. So you can see right here it says lights to stack. I can stack 100% of the lights. We have 13 of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this down until that number changes to 10. So what it will do is it will automatically analyze the images, or it probably already has analyzed the images and decided which ones are the best, and it will take the best 10 of the images and stack just those. So we will go ahead and we will integrate. We've got to give it a name, which we did at the very beginning, so that's good. NGC 6888, the Crescent Nebula. And this integration process here is very, very fast as well. So this is from a Bortle 8 sky, which on a scale of 1 to 9, with 1 being the best sky and 9 being the worst sky, we're a Bortle 8. And on top of being in almost the worst possible sky conditions, we have almost a full moon tonight. So I don't expect, you know, like something really super fantastic here, but for a quick little live stream tonight, that's not bad. I'm pretty happy with that. I am the world's worst when it comes to image processing, so anything I do here could very well be taken as being the wrong thing to do. Happy to have somebody chime in and tell me, what are you doing? But I'm gonna just mess around with a couple of sliders here. I like to try to get a nice kind of combination between my background sky. You can really see this part of the sky in Cygnus is just, the entire area is just on fire with nebulosity. And you can see it very evident here in the upper right hand side besides the Crescent Nebula itself. But then I've also got this I think is man-made, or not man-made, but I think it's a bright star that's off in this part of the frame that is reflecting on my filters or my optics that's causing this. Every time I shoot the Crescent Nebula, I get this. But I'm going to zoom in to 100% just to check and see how good my stars look. I can move it around a little bit. And I'm going to check my sharpness just a touch, see if I can crank up the sharpness without it getting too bad. That's probably as high as I'm going to go on sharpness. And if I go back up to here and adjust the black level and the white levels, I can maybe get a little more black out of that sky, and a little more white out of the whites. So I'm not gonna spend all day. I could spend all day sitting here processing this image, but what's the point? I'm gonna go over here and I'm just gonna crop it. Say yes. And what do I want to do? I want to do a crop. I want to do a square crop, but I don't like that. I'm going to do a different crop. I want to get a little more of that nebulosity on the right-hand side of the frame. I don't really care that the Crescent Nebula is not perfectly centered. Rule of thirds, guys. Rule of thirds. Look it up if you don't know what it is. I'm going to say the crop is okay there. And I'm going to save this as a TIFF. Okay. And save it as a 16-bit TIFF. And as far as I'm concerned, we're done with AstroPixel Processor. So I will close this. Do I really want to close AstroPixel Processor? Why, yes. Yes, I do. We'll go back into our main folder here and see if we can find our TIFF file. And I will open it up with Photoshop. These are just quick edits that I do to get a picture up on Instagram before I go to sleep at night. Oh, what happened? let's stretch our image here and see what I did wrong here. I'm wondering what I did wrong. Huh. Alright, well, that messed up. So here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to close this. I'm going to say no to saving the change. And I'm going to go back to AstroPixel Processor and open up the original file and maybe just save it as a JPEG. Current projects. Alright, and I want to open, I want to see if I can open that original file. See if it'll let me open it this way. There it is. Alright, I will save this as a JPEG. Okay, at 100%. Okay. Now we'll close this up. Yes, I really do want to close it. We'll go back to this and we will open up our current project. And there's our JPEG. Alright, so that looks a little better. And we'll go into levels here and I will bring the blacks down a little bit. Again, I'm not an image processor, so I really don't know what I'm doing here. And adjust my exposure just a touch. Alright. Brightness. Okay, and then I always want to go in and zoom this to 100%. And I want to make sure that my background is selected. And I want to go to Noise, Reduce Noise. And you can turn the noise preview on and off to see what it's doing. And I like to usually just like slowly crank it up, test it under each one and see if it's an acceptable image still. Anytime you make a change. Alright, I'm going to just go with that for tonight because we're not creating art here. I'm going to select my crop tool and I'm going to crop down to about there. Rule of thirds, so I'm going to set it about right there. Maybe not quite so cropped. Alright, so there's our final image for tonight. Save as, and I will save it as a JPEG. I will tag this Insta since it's my Instagram square image, and we will save that. Next, I've shown this in a couple of my streams, but most people that are Instagram users don't know about this feature. At least I didn't know about this feature for a long time. If you want to use your desktop, you can go to your, not that, you can go to your Instagram, and most people looking at their Instagram feed think, well, that's great and that's all fine and dandy and I signed in and all, but I still can't upload my pictures from my desktop. Oh, but you can. You can if you're using Chrome anyway, and I'm sure there's probably other browsers that allow you to do this. Go to More Tools and then go down to Developer Tools, and then you're looking for this little icon right here on the top left-hand side of this sidebar that looks like a phone/tablet. Click on it, and you'll notice that it resized your image to look more like what your phone or your tablet would see. But still no way to upload a picture. Hit refresh, hit reload one time, and boom, now you see that you've got your images or your buttons down here that are the same as the buttons at the bottom of your phone. So we'll click there. We will go to current projects and we will find our image. The only thing that you can't do is you can't zoom in. You can rotate, but you can't zoom in, or I guess because you need two fingers to squeeze to zoom in. So that's about the only limitation that you have, as far as I know, to using your desktop for Instagram. So we'll click this and we'll label it with the proper date of the 30th. And this is NGC 6888, the Crescent Nebula. Crescent misspelled. How about that? From my third YouTube live stream. And that's good for now. We'll share this. There we have it. So we'll see what everybody else is doing on Instagram tonight in the Astro community. But that's pretty much it, guys. I'm tired. It's 10:30. I need to get my scope packed up from outside and then go to bed. I've got a big day tomorrow. Tomorrow's my birthday, number 55. So wish me a happy birthday in the comments. That's it. I am going to fade to black here and very slowly fade out our music here, or just fade it out fast, I should say. But I appreciate you guys tuning in tonight. It was, what time did we start our stream? I think we're going on, we started it right at 9 o'clock. So actually I started the countdown at 8:40. So we've been live since 8:40 p.m. and it's 10:28 right now. So that's it. Thanks for joining, and we'll see you next time.